वेलकम एवरीवन टू द डेली न्यूज एनालिसिस ऑफ 27th ऑफ फरवरी 2024। तो आज के हिंदी न्यूज़पेपर से इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल्स वन बाय वन देख लेते हैं। पहला जो आर्टिकल है, सेवरल इंडियंस रिलीज्ड फ्रॉम रशियन आर्मी अकॉर्डिंग टू मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स। Then Modi to inaugurate three ISRO facilities today. An expensive and land management policy is overdue. Russia's economy after 2 years of war. Then what's the latest row between Trump and NATO? What is Bitcoin having and what does it mean for crypto community? Center examining Indian tech firm on US sanctions lists. Then PM launches 2000 railway infra projects worth 41,000 crore rupees. Then India specific AI model to find gestational age developed. Then Mariam Nawaz sworn in as Chief Minister of Punjab. तो फर्स्ट आर्टिकल है, several Indians released from Russian army according to MEA. The Ministry of External Affairs MEA said on the Monday that several Indians who joined the Russian army were already discharged after such cases were strongly taken up with the Russian authorities. The ministry said it has seen some inaccurate reports in the media regarding Indians with the Russian army seeking help for discharge. The Hindu has reported that several workers hired as a security helper for the Russian army have approached the Indian embassy in Moscow seeking the government help to return home but have not received a response. Each and every such case brought to the attention of the Indian embassy in Moscow has been strongly taken up with the Russian authorities, and those brought to the attention of ministry have been taken up with the Russian embassy in New Delhi. Several Indians have already been discharged as a result. We remain committed as a matter of top priority to actively pursuing with Russian authorities all the relevant cases of Indian nationals for an early discharge from the Russian army, the ministry said. On Monday, the brother of Jahor Ahmad Sheikh, 32, a resident of Kupwara in Jammu and Kashmir, who has been incommunicado since January after he joined the Russian army, told the Hindu that multiple calls and messages to the Indian embassy have gone unanswered. Musadir Amin said his brother was working in the Chandigarh when he got an offer to work in Russia. He got engaged a few months ago and reached Russia in December 2023. He regularly spoke with us, but on January 1, he told us he is going for training and his phone would be unrechargeable for 3 months. Mr. Amin said he added that the same month another worker who was with Mr. Johor and had escaped the war zone called their father and said they were stuck. We did not worry till then, as Johor told us he would be in a no network zone, but when we started calling him, his Indian and Russian phone numbers were not reachable, Mr. Amin said. An agent helped the family lodge a complaint with the emergency number of the Indian Embassy on January 23 and submitted copies of their documents with the mission. We filed a complaint with the local police. We have written several mails. Our calls to the Indian mission either remain unanswered or they say the officials are in a meeting. Mr. Amin said he was made to sign a contract that was in Russian language. He did not know he will be spent to the war zone. Mr. Amin said another J&K resident, Azad Yusuf Kumar, who was hit by a bullet during training, has also appealed for a return. Surinder Paul, 27, a resident of Jammu, said he was stuck in a bunker with another Indian on the Ukraine border. We first approached the Indian mission through our agent on January 24. All documents were provided, but we are still here. We want to come back. The Russians tell us that we cannot leave, said Mr. Paul. Then Modi to inaugurate three ISRO facilities centers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will review the process of Gaganyaan human spaceflight program and dedicate the three flights of the Indian Space Research Organization to the nation during a visit to the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center here on Tuesday. Mr. Modi is also likely to announce the names of the astronauts of the Gaganyaan program, which reportedly includes a Keralite. Mr. Modi will also bestow the mission patches on them. Gaganyaan expected to be launched in 2025 envisages a demonstration of human spaceflight capability by sending astronauts to orbit and returning them safely to the Earth. Mr. Modi will dedicate the Trisonic Wild Tunnel established at the BSSC in integration facilities for the Polar Satellite Launching Vehicle PSLV set off at the Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota, and semi-cryogenic integrated engine and test facilities (SIET) at the ISRO Propulsion Complex in Mahendragiri, Tamil Nadu. The three facilities have been developed at a cost of 1800 crore rupees. The Trisonic Wind Tunnel has an overall length of 170 meters with a test section size of 1.2 meters. It produces a controlled uniform airflow over scale models of rockets and aircraft to assess their aerodynamic characteristics for optimal design development. The wind tunnel, which is the first of its kind in the country, has a Mach number range of 0.2 to 4, which means it can generate speed ranging from the super subsonic to supersonic up to 4 times the speed of the sound. Mach number 4, the tunnel will provide self-reliance in the end-to-end design of upcoming launch vehicle project. More missions. The new PSLV integration facilities PIF at Sriharikota will give it the ISRO the capability to increase the number of PSLV missions in a year to 15. At the new facilities, the PSLV rocket will be inaugurated parallelly with the reimbursement of the launch pad. SIET will give the ISRO the capability to test the SCE 2000 semi-cryogenic engine, which uses refined kerosene named ISRO Sin and liquid oxygen as a propellant, and the rocket stage. The facility is at the ISRO Propulsion Complex at Mahendragiri. ISRO Chairman S. Somanathan, BSSC Director S. Uni Krishnan Nair, and Director of various ISRO centers will attend the event. Then next article है an expensive land management policy is overdue. Land is central to all human activities. It provides ecological, economical, social, and cultural services. But this multidimensional character of land is often overlooked in land management practices, resulting in excessive stress and land degradation and environmental drawdown. Globally, the annual losses of ecosystem services due to land degradation has been estimated at $6 trillion. The United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification COP14 in New Delhi in 2019 specifically discussed the problem of land degradation experienced by the different countries and the new to find ways of achieving land degradation neutrality. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's especially report on climate change and land 2019 suggested country-level stock-taking of land management practices. It also proposed several near and long-term actions with the thrust on land management options that reduce completion of a land with the co-benefits and minimum negative impacts on the key ecosystem services. The Food and the Agriculture Organization report state of the world's land and water resources for food and agriculture. The system at breaking point 2021 argued that a sense of urgency needs to prevail over a hitherto neglecting area of the public policy and human welfare that of caring for long-term future of land, soil, and water. The challenges in India with only 2.4% of world's geographical area and more than 17% of the world's population experiences several land management challenges. Arable land in India is around 55% of the total geographical area and the forest cover accounts for another 22%. The rest is desert, mountains, etc. Around 30% of the total geographical area is degraded land continues to be an important livelihood issue as a significant share of population depends on agriculture for their sustenance. Development targets and the demand for the land to accommodate the growing population infrastructure, rapid urbanization, and social, cultural, and environmental aspects are placing unprecedented pressure on land. This is resulting in more competition among farmers and between the agriculture and other land resources based on sectors, as well as the land uses conflict, escalations of land prices, and challenging land rights across the country. Natural areas are being squeezed and ecological functions being lost. Not only does this adversely affect the livelihood opportunity of the people who directly depend on the environmental resources, but also the buffering effect of the natural ecosystem in the face of disasters such as floods and droughts, temperature rise, and environmental pollution are severely compromised. Climate change has brought with it another set of challenges in India. Currently, land management practices are sectoral, with each department following its own approach. Land management falls under the purview of state governments. Further, cultural and land is privately owned, and land uses decisions are constitutionally vested with the owner. Apart from this administrative complexity, the challenges to adapt and implement appropriate land management practices in the country include knowledge gaps, a short-term planning bias, a fragmented approach, lack of actions for unforeseen events, and regulatory barriers as a critical mechanism to achieving sectoral integration and addressing these challenges. It is imperative to set up a multi-stakeholder platform at the district and sub-district levels to bring together farmers, other land managers, policy makers, civil society organizations, business lenders, and investors under a common platform. Article 243 ZD clause 1 of the Constitution provides for the district planning committee to consolidate plans from panchayats and municipalities. This community may be activated in the direction of preparing a land management plan covering both agricultural and non-agricultural sectors. A landscape approach will be useful in the context as it will provide deep insights to access the potential of land and the scope of allocations and relocations of land for appropriate uses. This will help evaluation, negotiation, trade-off, and decision making. A climate smart landscape approach will continue to climate objectives, increase the agricultural production, improve the local livelihood, and the conservation of biodiversity. Institutional support. Science has shown the importance of considering land as a system and promoting integrated landscape management. There is considerable experience on the ground to follow this approach, but systematically institutional support is hardly available. The European Landscape Convention proclaimed that landscape is a key element of the individual and social well-being. The UK Prime Minister Parliamentary Office of the Science and Technology in its brief 42 sustainable land management, managing land better for environmental benefits in 2021 have observed that the action for addressing adapting to climate change, achieving food security, and tackling the biodiversity crisis are all embedded in and depend on how land is managed. It cautioned the UK government about the failure of existing government policies and targets to address the complexities in land management, farming, and the natural environment. Perhaps India's parliamentarian can initiate deliberation on the emerging challenges of integrated land management practices and help devise appropriate policies for long-term sustainability by involving all sectors across the scales, both horizon and vertical. Next article is Russia's economy after 2 years of war. 2 years after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia is still facing an unprecedented number of economic sanctions. It has been excluded from the major global financial services and around 260 pound, sorry, 260 billion euro, that is 222 billion pound of its central bank assets have been frozen. Russia's airspace is closed to most western planes and western ports are closed to Russian vessels. A formal cap has been imposed on buying or processing Russian oil sold for more than $60 per barrel. World prices currently fluctuating between 80 to $100, and in theory, it is illegal to sell Russian anything that could be used by the military sanctions that have led some effects. According to the IMF, Russia's GDP is around 7% lower than the pre-war forecast. Despite all of this, Russia's economy has not collapsed, but does look very different and is now entirely focused on a long war in Ukraine, which is actually driving economic growth. In fact, the IMF expects Russia to experience a GDP growth of 2.6% this year. That is significantly more than the UK's 0.6% and European Union's 0.9%. Similarly, Russia's budget deficit, the amount the government needs to borrow, is on track to remain below 1% of GDP compared to 5.1% in UK and 2.8% in European Union. One reason for this relative resilience in Russia's strong independent central bank since 2022, it has imposed massive interest rate hikes currently at 16% to control inflation still above 7%. This has been combined with the government imposed control which make it almost impossible for Russian exporters and the many foreign companies still operating in Russia to take money out of the country. Together, these policies have helped to avoid a total collapse of the ruble by keeping the currency flowing. India inside Russia, Russian firms have also learned to sidestep sanctions, with the oil cap being a prime example. In theory, no Russian oil should be traded with the West above the cap, which would have a massive impact on Russia's public finances. In practice, it has been circumvented by a large dark fleet of insured vessels and the use of accounting loopholes, and while sanctioning countries and trying to tighten the rules, Russian public efforts have actually been flooded with oil money. Many countries have also made money playing the role of intermediaries. Turkey, China, Serbia, Bulgaria, and India are among those which have reportedly cumulative sanctions and carried on the selling goods to Russia. Those products are understood to often include dual-use goods such as microchips or communications equipment that are subsequently used by the Russian military. And despite recent efforts, a full regime of extraterritorial trade sanctions which ban any foreign company from trading with Russia is still far away. Fortune of war, but perhaps the most worrying reason for the Russian economy resilience is the war itself. For a long time, the economy of Russia has not been diverse, relying heavily on the export of natural resources such as oil and gas, and a major reason for the relatively high revenue of the Russian government today is precisely that the war has led to higher energy prices. Russia's public spending is at an unprecedented level. Around 40% of the government budget is spent on the war. Total military spending is expected to reach more than 10% of the GDP for the year 2023. The UK figure is 2.3%. Military pay, ammunition, tanks, planes, and compensations for dead and wounded soldiers all contribute to the GDP figures. Put simply, the war against Ukraine is now the main driver of Russia's economic growth, and it is a war that Russia cannot afford to win. The cost of rebuilding and maintaining security in a conquered Ukraine would be too great, and and an isolated Russia could be best hoped to become a junior partner entirely dependent on China in a context of collapsing infrastructure and growing social unrest inside Russia, and the projected cost of rebuilding the occupied area is already massive. A protected stalemate might be the only solution for Russia to avoid total economic collapse. Having transformed the little industry, it had to focus on the war efforts and with a labor shortage problem worsened by hundreds of thousands of war casualties and massive brain drain, the country would struggle to find a new direction. So 35 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, it has become clear that the resource rich Russia has become much poorer than its former Soviet neighbors such as Estonia, Latvia, Poland, and Hungary, who pursued the route of European integration. The Russian regime has no incentive to end the war and deal with that kind of economic reality, so it cannot afford to win the war, nor it can afford to lose it. Its economy is now entirely geared towards continuing a long and ever deadlier conflict. Next is what is the latest row between Trump and NATO. Former US President Donald Trump threatened to withdraw support to NATO, citing the failure of European NATO allies to step up their defense expenditure. He went on to the state that he would encourage Russia to do whatever it wanted. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg countered, saying any suggestion that allies will not defend each other undermines all of our security, including that of the US. Mr. Trump's statement comes amid challenges that President Biden is facing to get the US Congress to pass the Ukraine aid bill. See what is the problem? It is not the first time Mr. Trump has warned NATO's transatlantic member to increase their defense expenditure during his presidential term 2017-21. He emphasized on reducing or withdrawing aid to NATO. His national Security advisor Keith Kellogg and Robert O'Brien proposed the possibility of a tiered alliance which aims to alter the nature of Article 3, which insists that NATO members make necessary efforts to boost defense capabilities, and Article 5, which considers an attack against one NATO member as an attack against all. The modification would mean that only those who meet the set defense contribution threshold can avail of the protection under Article 5, which while direct funding of 3.8 billion euros as required by the 2024 budget has been fulfilled by the members to continue NATO operations and military commands. Equal contribution to indirect funding is a long-standing problem. The US remains one of the major contributors to indirect funding with 800 billion euros, 68% out of the total 1,173 billion euros. What has been NATO's response, quoting the July 2023 defense expenditure report of NATO comparing Russia and NATO's arsenal capacity? Mr. Stoltenberg claimed NATO to be a stronger than Russia at the Munich Security Conference 2024. This can be evidence from the over, overpowering military personnel, collective military capabilities, and naval power of NATO. However, Russia outnumbers NATO is ground in ground combat vehicle capacity and a nuclear warhead. Since the formation of NATO in 1949, the US has been its largest contributor, while in 2006 a target of 2% of GDP was introduced. It was not until Russia's first invasion into Ukraine territory in 2014 that NATO countries began to actually increase their expenditure from 2006 to 14, except Norway, Poland, Estonia, and Albania, which closely maintained their GDP share. All other member countries showed a declining trend in their shares, while European allies and Canada have contributed an additional 600 billion to alliance since 2014. They are yet to meet the set threshold. Now European members of NATO have pledged $380 billion this year and to also spend 2% of their GDP on defense. Germany and Finland have assured that they will boost their military expenditure. Currently, the largest stand from the Europe is to 45 Europe's defense capabilities from within and cut down reliance on the US. What happens if Mr. Trump withdraws the support from NATO? There will be severe consequences if Mr. Trump gets elected and attempts to operationalize his threat. If the target GDP is not met, NATO may risk losing military support from the US and a united alliance which has till now stood strong and against Russia will crumble. It would take decades to replace the US military contribution. The US has been a major shareholder of NATO's defense, although its GDP spending ranged between high and low tendencies, losing its support entirely would take decades for NATO to revive its military arsenals, and then comes questions of leadership for a Europe-led security bloc. NATO, which has doubled its geopolitical presence to 30 plus members, needs to be able to hold a united front. Ambiguity persists over who can lead NATO post the US or which group of countries will stride high to establish a safe security landscape for Europe. The next article is what is Bitcoin having and what does it mean for for crypto community. Just as the sporting world eagerly awaits the Olympics every 4 years, those following cryptocurrency look forward to their own quadrennial event as athletes train for the 2024 Games in Paris this summer. Crypto traders and Bitcoin miners are preparing for what is known as Bitcoin halving, predicted to happen in April. What is the Bitcoin halving? Bitcoin halving refers to 50% reduction in the reward paid to Bitcoin miners who successfully process other people's cryptocurrency transactions so that they can be added to the public digital ledger known as the blockchain. In order to grow Bitcoin's blockchain and keep ecosystem running, Bitcoin miners rely on advanced computer equipment to solve a complex mathematical puzzle through a process known as proof of work. This intense activity is the reason Bitcoin transactions results in huge carbon footprints and require vast amount of electricity. No real mining is carried out. The Bitcoin miner with a cutting-edge computer equipment working on an industrial scale are most likely to solve the puzzle fast and claim their price, which is currently set at 6.25 Bitcoin. While the reward amount is set, the true value of this price fluctuates based on the BTC price in the market and when the owner chooses to sell. Think of a group of grocery store cashier who are in a contest to each bill the same set of items with the person doing it fast and accurately getting a price of 10 gold coins at the end. The cashier can be use their favorite tools in order to bill the items and process the payment while one might prefer to tally of total with the paper and pencil. Another might decide to choose their smartphone's calculator while someone else buy a state of the art computer system attached to a price scanner. The person most likely to win in this case is the cashier with the most advanced equipment, but the others stand a chance of winning as well. This is largely a positive system for everyone. The customer items are effectively billed and all cashiers do their job well because they want a claim of price. After 4 and so years, you return to the grocery store where the cashier still have this contest, but the prize money has been reduced to five gold coins. Is the price still worth of the effort? That depends on the price of gold in the market and the cost of equipment that the cashier brought in the order to win the gold coins. This is one way to understand the Bitcoin halving. Why does the Bitcoin halving matter to crypto investors? Bitcoin Mining increases the supply of BTC in circulation, while Bitcoin helping reduces the rate at which these coins are released, making these assets more scarce. Scarcity is seen as pursuing of prices, as is the case with gold, while there can only be ever be 21 million BTC in the world. Over 19 million have already been mined or released. This sounds like the end of the story, but Bitcoin halving means it will take far more time for remaining coins to be mined. A halving takes place after 210,000 blocks are mined and has happened so far in 2012, 16, 2020, every 4 years. In 2009, a successful Bitcoin miner could claim a price of 50 BTC. After this year's halving, they will only get 3.125 BTC. However, keep in mind that Bitcoin prices are far higher than now than if they were in 2009. So this is not necessarily a loss for the miner. As of February 14, the price of 1 BTC was around $49,528. This means a mining reward on February 14 would be worth around 3,09,550. 6 to 6.25 of the price of 1 BTC. Whether this value will rise or fall after the Bitcoin halving depends on the price of Bitcoin. Both corporate and independent Bitcoin miners are spread across the world trying to leverage the cheap electricity prices in the countries like Kazakhstan and Iran to mine as much as Bitcoin they can. China was originally home to many of the world's crypto miners, but government crackdown triggers an exodus to the other countries. What impact will Bitcoin halving have on investors? This depends on the investor in questions and extent of their involvement with the BTC and its ecosystem. For example, a corporate level miner who has burned through their wallet paying for the Bitcoin mining hardware and the electricity bill that comes from the powering them is probably desperate to earn their block reward in these last days, while it is still set at to 6.25 BTC rather than the much lower 3.125 BTC. On the other hand, a new trader who has invested a small sum of money in the Bitcoin through their crypto exchange via a phone app and knows nothing about the underlying blockchain technology might not even react to news of the halving. Meanwhile, a more experienced trader who has looked at the past halving might try increasing their Bitcoin investment in the hopes of benefiting from a possible price spike, as even as another might short Bitcoin while hoping to profit from a possible price crash. What will happen to the crypto market after the next Bitcoin halving? While nobody can know for sure have to what will have to the crypto market in innumerable self-styled crypto traders, financial analysts, fintech engineers, crypto influencers, statisticians claim they can predict the price trajectory of Bitcoin with the help of cryptocurrency model and metrics. But investors should know these are all educated guesses at best. Many Bitcoin investors and watchers also reference a recurring 4-year cycles that hinges on the halving, or even claiming that prices spike after the halving. But in reality, the coin journey has been far more unprecedented, predictable, and difficult to map out. Even every halving on Bitcoin's history has been widely different due to an electric mix of blockchain related factors, increasing regulation by lawmakers worldwide, more awareness about cryptocurrency investment, greater adoption of Bitcoin, and diverse geopolitical event or economic shocks. Bitcoin is an asset whose price is largely steered by investors' emotions. So there even been a fear and a greed indicators to help investors understand how prices could suddenly shift. While the next billion Bitcoin halving will be a fascinating episode to witness, it is best here for crypto watchers to rely on their own research and decide what the halving means to them personally. So friends, this is all for today and we will meet from tomorrow onwards with a new news article which are relevant from UPSC perspective. So till then keep studying and thank you for listening. Have a good day.